Hey everybody, this is Kristen and I have Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt Spring 2019 clue number 2, and this is the size small. So if you have yours and you want to see what it looks like, we are making this. We're going to make 4 of these this month, and you'll notice that, so it's square, 2 triangles, and a big triangle, and it's the exact same with square, 2 triangles, and a big triangle, just mirror images. So it takes a little bit of thinking this month to make sure you don't screw that up. Just make sure you read the directions really carefully. There are pressing directions for your seams this month, so do take a look at that as well. The other thing that came in my thing this month is the pineapple block of the month. And on the back, it's a coloring sheet. If you color that, you post it to social media with the hashtag #CCColorChallenge, you could win 2 yards of fabric. So definitely worth trying. Alright, if you want to sew along with me, why don't you stand by for a second and I will get set up and we'll get going. For those of you who just wanted to see what we had, thanks for coming over. If you can, hit subscribe button, hit the like button, and the notification button, and then you never miss a video. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, do drop me a line. I love hearing from you. Alright, let's get sewing. Alright, so I hope you guys are ready to sew along. Before you get started, make sure you have this handy dandy little sheet. That's going to tell you what fabric colors correspond to what numbers. So when we do look at our list of, here's what we have in the package this month and here's where you want to put your fabrics, that you get everything lined up correctly. So I'm just going to do one full block, so there's 2 mirror pieces that we're going to be working on today. Because they are mirrored pieces, definitely just make sure you're taking an extra second or two to double check that you have it correct before you sew. How do I know this? This girl did that. And I'm like sewing and I press and I'm going, that doesn't look right. So don't do me, get it right. Alright, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is get one of your squares, which is your color E, and the triangle color E, and you're going to get 2 of those out. So I'm going to go ahead and rearrange the camera so that you guys can see what I'm looking at as I set everything up. So give me a second. Okay, so don't forget we're going to do 2 different ones because I like chain piecing, so I'm going to put them out separately. But you can do this all in a set of 4 of one side and then 4 of the other side if you want. Okay, so we're going to have our square, and then you're going to take your triangle and you're going to put that on the right hand side of your square so that the long edge is pointing to that like upper right corner. Okay, so you're going to put them right sides together and you're going to pin it. And I like to do this right away so that I'm not trying to remember what sides do I put together, which way do I flip. Just get that done and you're good to go. Okay, then you're going to take your other pair. Again, have your square right here. But then this, excuse me, this will go on the left-hand side, and that long edge is pointing to the upper left corner. Okay? You can play with this and, move your square around and see what you like better. I kind of like that. For pattern-wise, if yours is like mine and has some really cool patterns. Otherwise, if it's just more of an all-over, you might not worry about it so much. But I'm going to pin that. And then we're ready. So we're going to sew these guys together, and a lot of what we're going to be doing today is bias seams. So you're going to want to make sure that you are very careful with how you sew. So let me move this guy over. You can get a good view of my workspace. And I've already got my leader started, so that's not going to eat my pretty fabric. And that seems to help with getting threads tangled and everything else as well. So I'm just going to feed it in. And then we're going to get these two done. And then we're going to take it over and get them pressed. And one thing you want to be careful of this month, excuse me, my voice is going all over the place today, guys. Yeah. We do have pressing directions this month to tell you towards what fabric you should be pressing your seams. Definitely make sure you take a look at that, because when they do give it to you, it's for a reason. This month it goes to make your nesting your blocks a lot easier. So if you don't have it the right way, it's going to be a bit of a pain. Okay, so gotta clip these. And it says you're going to press it towards E1. So you're going to set the seam here and then press towards your smaller piece, towards your triangle, okay? So I don't think you guys need to see me pressing at least this. This is a pretty self-explanatory seam. So I'm going to press these two and then I'll be back with the next step. So when you get done, you should have two different pieces looking like this, just mirror images. And then you are going to get your fabric color A, which is your other small triangle. So this is going to be, there we go. Like, that doesn't look right. This is my step 2 actually, one. So let me get my other up first so we at least stay in order. Alright, so step 1, remember, should be pointing up towards the upper right hand corner. And you're going to take this guy and you're going to put it on the bottom. So really what you should have is, when you sew it all together, you should have one big triangle. Okay, so same thing. Flip it over and then just pin it. And you're going to notice that right here, this end overlaps your seam. And that is totally fine. That is actually supposed to be what happens. So don't worry about it not being right. Alright, get the other one out, pointing up to the left. Get my A, and again I'm going to put that on the bottom and make sure that I have a triangle. I was chugging along earlier today getting stuff ready for you guys, and I don't know how I did it, but I sewed this bottom triangle on completely wonky so that I had kind of like it almost looked like there was 2 ears coming out of my square. It wasn't a triangle. It wasn't very good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew with the back towards me. And I'm just doing that because I want to keep this seam nice and flat. And that allows me to have a little bit of control as we come up to the seam and as I go over the seam. So you don't have to do it that way. That's just the way I like to do it. But whatever you would do is just fine. There we go. So that's one down. So this one's a little bit harder. So this one, since it goes the other direction, if I wanted to have it on the back, I would be pulling my seam the wrong way. So this one, I have to have the front up in order to keep my seam the direction I want it. And again, you don't have to do it like I do it. This is just what works for me. go at your own pace. If it takes you 2 hours to do this month's clue, that's okay. If you're chugging along and you're going so fast that your seams are really wonky and all over the place, you're going to end up with a worse finished product. Yeah, you'll get more done this week, but in the end, I think you'll be happier if you just take whatever time you need. Okay, get this guy all trimmed up. So now the directions for pressing on this one are a little bit different. It says press towards E4, which is my square. So when I press, I'm going to have my square up on top, like this, so that I can push back and get it towards my square. But we really want to make sure that we're not pushing, we're not stretching it in any way, because these are, you got a lot of seams, they're going to be a little bit delicate. So I'm going to go ahead and press this, and then we'll be back. So what you should have is 2 triangles that look like this. You might notice right here in the bottom that you're going to have a little bit of a gap. Don't worry about that. That is just from when Cotton Cuts trimmed off the dog ears. So if you were doing it yourself with full-on triangles that the points weren't chopped off, you really wouldn't have that. But since the points were chopped, that's totally normal. Okay. We are halfway done, just about. So you're going to take your big triangle, which is D3, or color D, and you are going to put it right sides together on top of the thing that we just sewed together. So now we are working with bias edges, the stretchy edges. So you want to be really, really, really careful not to pull or tug if you can at all help it. So what you're going to see me doing is I pinned one end and I pinned the other end, and then I'm just going to alternate between. I didn't do that the first one that I made today, and I noticed that it just lines up way better if I do. So you might find that you don't have that problem, but for whatever reason, this is what's working for me today, so that's what I'm doing. Alright, make sure your seams are lying the way you want, and then go ahead and put your pin through. So there's one. Got to get my other pair together. I always try to match up the those chopped off dog ears there, and that way we know that they're both the same size. Pin one end, pin the other, and alternate. So I'm really glad I learned this trick. It's not just for borders and long straight pieces. I'm sure I'll find other spots to work it into my sewing as well, but so far it is a very handy trick. Okay, one more pin and we are good to go. Okay. So we have 2 options. One is to sew it on this side. The other is to sew it on this side. For me, going back to what I was talking about earlier, generally you sew this way. So that means I'd be pulling at these seams. Maybe I want to do that, maybe not. On my other one, because they're mirror images, if I'm doing this, it presses my seams in perfectly. I don't have to worry about it. So I'll probably do just like I did last time. The one that already has it set to make it easy for me, I'll sew it that way, and the other one I will sew from the single fabric. With bias edges, I know I've said this before, I will harp on it again. Be really, really careful that you're not pulling, that you're not tugging, that you let the machine do the work, because if you start to put in any undue stress on these fabrics, that's when you start to have things that are distorted and that don't line up the right way. and I guarantee you that you will be sad. You don't want to spend any time with your seam ripper if you don't have to. If you just take this nice and easy and slow, more likely you'll be just fine. Alright, so there we go. That's number 1. Let's get number 2 set up and feeding in. And I just pull the pins out as I get close to them. I know a lot of machines say you can sew over the pins. I find that is a great way to either bend my pins or break a needle or both. And I don't mind the, 2 seconds of slowdown so that I can not have that issue. I'm going to pull that pin and then I'm going to readjust just a teensy bit because I was starting to see my bottom fabric scooching to the other side, so I really don't want to see it. I want to have them lined up exactly, and if I'm seeing my bottom fabric come proud of my other one, then I need to fix that. Alright. Get my well-loved ender in there. Alright, so here is where you're going to have to really take a second and think about what you're doing before we press, okay? So you're going to want to press. Let me double check my directions before I tell you wrong. Okay, so each one of these blocks is going to be different. So let's get out our number 1, which is the one where this E fabric goes up to the right hand corner. And this one, you are going to press it towards these multiple color side. So you're going to want to have this on the up, and you're going to press it over. Your other one is opposite. You're going to press towards this solid, okay? So this one I am going to show you guys just to make sure that we have it done correctly. And then really all we do is sew these 2 pieces together. So we're almost there. So I've got my step 1 fabric right in front of me. And again, when we open this up, this portion is going to point up towards this upper right hand corner, okay? So you're going to set the seam, and remember we were working with bias edges on this, so it's even more important not to push and to shove. You do want to take it easy. It's a little hard in that corner where all the seams are coming through. It's being a little finicky. Right here in the middle. So sometimes I do this. I flip it over and I give it a little bit of a nudge so that we get it in the correct spot. There we go. That works a little bit better. So you're just going to gently get this pressed. Alright, so set that aside, and then you're going to bring out your other one. And your other one, when you have it, should be pressed, or should be pointing up to that upper left corner. And double check one more time, and this gets pressed towards this large solid fabric, your D fabric. Okay, so again, press the seams. This one's going to go a little bit easier because you don't have as many seams to try to press. But you still don't want to push or shove or prod or whatever you want to call it because this is a bias edge. Okay, so we now have 2 different squares. So let's go back and we'll put these together. Alright, so here's number 1, here's number 2. What you're going to do to put them together is your purples are going to touch in the middle, well, I say purple because that's mine. Your color D is going to touch in the middle. You should have E up in the corner, and your A should be that bottom part, okay? So just make sure your 2 E sections are on the top and your D is touching. So flip that over, and if you follow the pressing directions, when you do this, your seams will nest really nicely together. So go ahead and pin that. We're going to get this guy sewn up, and then there is a pressing direction of press to the right. So when you have it open, the rightmost block, if you're looking at it, that's what you're going to press towards. So let's get you started. This is the block we just finished. So as you're looking at it, this is your right hand side. So pressed my seams so that it's towards that right hand side, right? That would be pressing to the right hand block. So you're going to make 4 of these, and that completes this month's glue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all 4 of mine together, and then every month we get these handy dandy little plastic baggies, and I have been putting mine in the bags, and that kind of keeps them dirt and hair free, because I have cats. And where's my fourth? Fourth is hiding behind me. And I just put everything in a neat little package to await month 10. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you guys. But that's this month's. It's already done, pretty quick and simple. You just have to think about it a little bit harder than some of the months. So hit subscribe, hit the like button if you don't mind, and let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Alright, thanks guys, and I'll see you next month.